Uh, well, I know a number of you, but I will still introduce myself. I'm Justin Lapoint. I'm Minister Emeritus of Outlaws Bridge Universalist Church and past president of Universalist Convocations. My father and my maternal grandparents were all Universalist ministers, though my father also had fellowship in the American Unitarian Association. I was ordained in 1972 into the Unitarian Universalist ministry. I would like to open the service with the 7 principles, which are so important to many of us. We Unitarians and Universalists affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another and spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Now, if you will remain muted, I'm going to sing Spirit of Life, and you may wish I had muted, but here we go. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, moving the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. And for my reading, I want to read some words that have been attributed to John Murray. Now, there's some debate as to whether this is authentic or not, but I like to think that this encapsulates John Murray's message. These were supposed to be the words he said in 1770 when he arrived in Good Luck, New Jersey. Go out into the highways and byways of America, your new country. Give the people blanketed with a decaying and crumbling Calvinism something of your new vision. You may possess only a small light, but uncover it and let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of men and women. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Do not push them deeper into their theological despair, but preach the kindness and everlasting love of God. The title of my sermon is What is Universalism? And I'd like to start with a little story. Back in 1993, I was executive director at Murray Grove Campus Conference Center. And the UUA was going to celebrate Universalism for a change and offered a contest to someone to send a sermon on the theme Universalism for such a time as this. Well, I decided, oh my God, I've been thinking about this for years and years. So I better send something in. And so I rushed off a message. I was awfully busy at Murray Grove. I didn't have a whole lot of free time. And I said, well, at least I sent it in, and I don't regret that I didn't. Well, a little while later, I got a call from one of my dad's old friends at 25 Beacon Street. He said, you know, Justin, you won the Universalism for such a time as this award. And I was dumbfounded. I thought, well, I whipped that off in you know, at the last minute. And later on, when I was able to talk to some of the people who were judges of the contest, I said, you know, why did you decide on my sermon and not some of the others? And the answer was, because you followed directions. Everyone else brought a historic sermon about what Universalism was. And in a few minutes, I'm going to talk about that too. But please notice that it is not what was Universalism, but what is Universalism. Universalism is a wonderful, life-affirming faith whose time has come. Ours is a time in which too many people are fearful of the future. Universalism. All right. I'm not repeating the sermon from 93 because the political situation in 93 is not the political situation in 2025. All right. First, what was Universalism? And I imagine all of you know, but we'll go over it anyway. It was the belief that all souls would be saved through the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ. This was the gospel preached by John Murray, who was the founder of American Universalism. However, this definition was challenged by Hosea Ballou in his epic, it's backwards on my screen, but I hope it's forwards on yours, a treatise on the atonement. At one time, Universalism was the fastest growing religion in America. And that was in the early 19th century. And one of the advantages of Universalism, and one of the reasons why it was found in a lot of rural areas, is that everyone in a village could belong because everyone was included. However, we had a wonderful start, but unlike the Methodists, who also went out and preached the word, we didn't do so well at organizing the churches that we founded. And by the 20th century, our numbers were declining. But they had declined so much that conversation began between the Unitarians and Universalists. The youth groups combined, I think it was in 1953, to form liberal religious youth. But anyway, in 1960, the decision was made to merge. And in 1961, merger was effected. Although our name was part of the new denominational name, many neglected to use it. And many neglected it, period. And so we were submerged. What was Universalism like at the time of merger? Well, there was as with the Unitarians, there's a spectrum. But the best expression of progressive universalism was from Clarence Russell Skinner, who was the dean of Crane Theological School at Tufts College. Now, these words I'm going to read to you were written in 1940. That was several years before I was born. We need a new philosophy which repudiates the old and entrenched selfishness and exclusiveness of the past and proclaims a more ample life for the growing spirit of humanity. We must find new instruments for solving our problems, no longer the bludgeoning axe, but the effective methods of understanding and cooperation. Above all, we must move forward from superstition to reason, from authoritarianism to freedom, from partialism to universalism, from indifference to conviction, from fear to faith, from disorder to discipline, from anarchy to organization, from war to peace. So Skinner influenced many Universalist ministers, including Gordon McKeeman and my own father, George Lapoint. So that was Universalism, the message. Also, I could have read the Washington Declaration, which expresses my own personal faith, but I want to move on to the present. Excuse me. Having given you a brief summary of what Universalism was, it is time to talk about the present and the future. It was the great scholar E. Morse Wilbur who described the essence of Unitarianism that does not change through the ages. He described it in 3 words: freedom, reason, and toleration. In like manner, my friend Rich Coster, who was for a long time editor of the Universalist Herald, has defined the essence of universalism. Everyone included, no one left behind. Our Universalist ancestors thrilled to the message, give them not help, but hope and courage. Preach the kindness and everlasting love of God. When I was a child in Universalist Sunday school in the 1950s, we had a children's hymnal with a song called My Country is the World. I want to share that song. I think I may need to have a little water first. Excuse me. I have changed some words. I have eliminated some of the male exclusive words. My country is the world. My flag with stars impearled fills all the sky. All the wide earth I claim, peoples of every name, and all inspiring fame my heart would prize. And all folk are my kin, since ever folk have been, blood of my blood. I glory in the grace and strength of every race, and joy in every trace of neighborhood. Universal inclusion. Clarence Russell Skinner liked to use the word partialism to contrast with universalism. I prefer the word exclusivism because it really reflects what we're up against. In our nation today, and in too many parts of the world, exclusivism, fed by ignorance, resentment, and hatred for people who are different reigns supreme. Now, I know before I say this next thing, I have to acknowledge that many Christians are just as upset as I am about what's going on now. But there are some not far from the sound of from my voice, from my house, who are just dandy with it. They think they're being persecuted because they have to say happy holidays to be inclusive of other religions. Some are so exclusivist that they can't even stand other Christians. And many of them, like I say, they're just dandy with what's going on today. Well, since Christianity is supposed to have something to do with Jesus of Nazareth, I would like to share this section of Matthew 7. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do people gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree that bears good fruit, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Therefore, by their fruit shall you know them. Well, folks, we have been forced to eat rotten fruit. There are Americans who hate Hispanic people so much they think it's just dandy that so many are getting deported, ostensibly because supposedly they belong to gangs, but the regime doesn't care, just deport them all. the current administration is a nightmare of exclusivism. Are people who do everything, every day, we have another outrage to contend with. Do people who do everything in their power to undermine democracy deserve to be called patriots? I don't think so. In World War II, the United States of America fought fascism. Americans helped liberate Europe from the nightmare of Hitler. And those soldiers who died on the beaches at Normandy on D-Day were heroes. They were not suckers. Such cynicism is disgusting. So we know the problem. And it is not just our problem, it's the world's problem. What is the solution? Well, it's universalism. Everyone included, no one left behind. No one left behind. No people deported because someone in power doesn't like the way they vote. No one fired from a government service job just to make the rich richer. No one who served this country cheated out of what is rightfully theirs. No one who had the courage to stand up to tyranny targeted for destruction. No woman deprived of necessary health care. Our beloved planet safe for tomorrow's children and not destroyed by greed and its consequences. How do we even address this? How do we achieve such freedom for our country and the world? By living, breathing, and preaching universalism. Bernie Sanders says, this is not a time for despair. And I know that the numbers of us who love universalism are few. But I take comfort in the parable of Jesus. It's the parable of the mustard seed, which, though insignificantly small, grows into a great bush that can shelter the birds of the air. I recently heard an excellent sermon by a Presbyterian colleague of mine, Reverend Cynthia Williams. She said, "You are a child of God. Don't forget it. We are all children of one universe. All folk are my kin, since ever folk have been. Everyone included, no one left behind. Universalism forever. Give them not hell, but hope and courage." My closing words are from Olympia Brown, who was ordained by the Universalist Church. The first woman ordained by by a denomination. I have to add, because I have Quaker relatives, that Quakers had women ministers for well over 400 years. But They weren't ordained, they were recorded. What this is called Stand By This Faith. It's actually, if you want to know, number 569 in this Singing the Living Tradition. Stand by this faith, work for it, and sacrifice for it. There is nothing in all the world so important as to be loyal to this faith, which has placed before us the loftiest of goals, which has comforted us in sorrow and strengthened us for noble duty and made the world beautiful. Do not demand immediate results, but rejoice that we are worthy to be entrusted with this great message, that you are strong enough to work for a great true principle without counting the cost. Go on finding ever new applications of these truths and new enjoyments in their contemplation. Always trust in the one God, whichever lives and loves. Amen. That's it. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Matthew.
Well, just perhaps you know that she followed up that what you read with a quote from Tennyson: "One God, one law, one element, one far-off divine event to which the whole creation moves."
I like that. I like that. Jay?
Well, Justin, I cannot thank you enough for the energy, the spiritual energy that came from you as you spoke.
Uh,
And indeed, no one left behind, everyone included, is a key important message.
it is. It
In a
is.
world where being othered is now the norm.
Yes.
Not here.
And I always say, because my grandparents came from Poland in the early 1900s, and there was not a warm welcome wagon for our crazy names and our smelly food.
Yeah, it wasn't. I have some Irish ancestors, and
But
it
but
wasn't.
what I've discovered, yeah, but what I've discovered in my life
What?
is what I've discovered in my life, there's always more room on the mountaintop for new arrivals.
Yeah.
It is a mystical place where everyone is invited and no one needs to leave.
Right.
And I think that is all are included, no one left behind. But thank you so much. Excellent,
That's Rick
excellent
Costa.
words.
Those are his words. Donna.
I too want to thank you for your message. I have struggled with ways of how to explain why I'm a Universalist Unitarian. Um, I get, looks like, what in the hell are you talking about? It's Unitarian Universalist, and I need to be able to explain to people why I'm a Universalist Unitarian. And my old elevator talk, the short version, basically said the Unitarians rejected the Trinity and the Universalists included everyone, and I was more inclined to include everyone. And I've written some notes. What can I take out here really quickly? Beware of false prophets. I wrote actually down here, license plates. My license plate that I got at one of the GAs says Unitarian Universalist, but the word Universalist at the bottom is twice as big as the word Unitarian. So I've always kind of liked that. And I must say, both last month and this month, because folks have used sources within the Gray hymnal, I would be curious from within this group how folks are feeling about responding to the virtual hymnal that has been developed over the last couple of years, and whether you're finding it something useful. And I think lastly, your Presbyterian minister friend, as someone who's been kind of excommunicated from the only UU congregation in Iowa City, I have been exploring other denominations. And I must say, my local Presbyterian congregation has appealed to me, not just because it's got a bell choir, a huge organ, a fine choir, vocal choir, and a fine minister, but I have found myself kind of looking into other areas of Christendom, so that I can go there and spread the Universalist message.
Good. I'd like to call on Ken now.
I too want to thank you for a really great sermon. I appreciate hearing what you had to say. My question is, if can you speak a little more about how contemporary universalism has to be a little different than its roots, and how do we approach universalism in this time?
Well, our roots are deep within the Christian tradition, and many of us, including me, have a problem. I have another sermon that I'm not going to give here called Why I Am Not a Christian. I stole it from Bertrand Russell, but I have different reasons. Well, by the way, I'm a Unitarian too in theology. I don't mean that we should reject it. There is a Christian Universalist Association which is promoting what were our roots. And I'm glad they are. But I think a lot of us just aren't there anymore. And a lot of people, well, we're not supposed to criticize the UUA, but a lot of people who have been asked to leave, who are good Unitarian Universalists, you know, I think we have to have a message that is inclusive as well as a, everyone included, no one left behind. I think Jay was next.
So, Ken, you asked the relevant question. Now, I've been workshopping my answer, I think, like all of us do. And one that I'm trying to hone, I'm a Universalist historian on Southern Universalist ministries, really starting through the 1800s up to the early 1900s. But what I found is that the earlier message is God loves us all.
Yes.
No exceptions. But in a world that has really moved beyond a spiritual central God in heaven, long beard overseeing all of us, the message is now we have become those that must give love, respect, attention, inclusion to all. We have basically assumed the position of which was the overriding sovereign. And I think that's a demanding question or an ask of many people. But I think it works well with the inherent worth and dignity of everyone.
Yes, I would add,
Go on.
I'm sorry.
No,
We
I'm
are
done.
in charge of justice. Many people, there are a number of people who believe, well, okay, these evil people are doing things we don't like, but boy, they're going to get it because God's going to roast them. We are responsible for justice, and we that, I think that's an important thing as well. Matthew has a hand up.
Thanks, Justin. Again, I loved what you had to say, and you know, I appreciate what you have to say, and Richard for giving you this forum, and it's great getting to know you. And yes, universalism, I think, has gotten short shrift in the UU world, but the groups like this are fixing that.
Yes,
And as far as where we're going, I just want to put in, shameless self-promotion department. This coming Tuesday, May 13th, I will be presenting to the North American Unitarian Association Academy a talk. I'm calling A Vision for Liberal Religion in the 21st Century, which will incorporate much of what you have said and much of what Jay has worked on so hard and with the Fifth Principle Project. And many of us here have put in so much time trying to preserve, what we thought we signed up for
yes,
with Unitarian Universalism. And but this is just absolutely fantastic. And thank you so much.
you're welcome. Donna,
Matthew, will that be available online? Can we join it?
Yes. If you just go to naunitarians.org, it's in the upcoming events as the NAUA Academy. I mean, I could I can put that link in the chat if you want, but naunitarians.org, it's a very user-friendly site, despite the fact that they really are determined to not try to replace the UUA, but it's a good place for people to gather, in a place where, as we are talking here, where people haven't lost their damn minds, where we're trying to still get it done here. So, I'm interested in what's true and what works, as I say. And so that's what I'm going to talk about next Tuesday, but they have a number of forums which are good. So naunitarians.org. I am a member there, but it's like, but I love what we're doing here, and I can't get enough of this stuff, and I wish that the UUA were doing some of this, but as Justin and others have said, they've taken a weird turn that is not getting it done. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
what I've said is they're neither Unitarian nor Universalist.
Well, I'm with you there.
So when you eliminate reason, you're taking out one of the pillars of Unitarianism.
So I'm going to be thoroughly inappropriate, Reverend Ken. Many of us know one another here from other events, and I hope we could learn more about you. For instance, have you ever heard about the Universalist Convocation, and what is your kind of position in terms of the Universalist Unitarian understanding? And you can say no thanks as well, of course.
I've never had a problem saying no thanks.
Hey, everyone, he's one of us. It's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I assume you're asking me these questions because you want to know if I'm a spy from the UUA, but I'm not.
No, not at all. If you're from Vermont, you're really okay.
yeah.
I do like to crochet, so that's why I'm looking down. I don't want you to think I'm ignoring any of you. I well, I don't know how much to share right now, but let's just say that I am very much could call myself a Universalist minister rather than a UUA minister. I was ordained at the Barry Church, which is a Universalist church historically, and so that's how I see myself. And I'll leave it at that till I get to know you more better.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Richard, I'd like to do some advertising, if I may, for the moment. So
Yes.
our next Wednesday Vesper will be on, help me with the date, Richard. And the service would be conducted by Reverend Derek Parker.
It's
The
June
date
4th. June 4th is the first Wednesday in June.
June 4th. And Derek, could you give us a preview of what you would be speaking about?
Sure, I can. Some of you know me, some of you don't. And Justin, by the way, it's a delight to see you. You're such a longtime friend, and I miss seeing, as much of you as I used to. But I'm up here in Indiana on the state line with Ohio, and you're down in North Carolina.
Yes.
My name is Derek Parker. I am minister to the Universalist Church in El Dorado, Ohio. I am finishing up a term of service on the faculty at Bethany Theological Seminary. I will be transitioning jobs the next time you see me. I'll still be at the El Dorado Church, but I will also be serving as chaplain to the Friends Fellowship retirement community here in Richmond. So next time I am preparing something for you, some good food for thought. We can go back centuries and find people struggling with what it means to be human and reaching for some kind of definition of that could be termed universal, something that all sorts of people would agree, yeah, that is the shared real thing of what it means to be human. So I'm going to take you on a little tour of that big conversation through time and some of the religious implications and an understanding of what is at stake when we bring up questions about the universal and the human. And so hope you will join us. Yeah, I'm preparing something special for you.
Thank you, Derek.
Matthew? You're muted, Matthew.
Yes, of course. Sorry. I want to ask Derek, are you familiar with the book The Goodness Paradox by Richard Wrangham?
I am not familiar with that.
I think it would fit into the topic you're talking about, and you've got a little bit of time to churn through it. Although I would recommend the audio book, which if you listen to it at super speed, you can bang it out in 2, 3 days. But it's absolutely, I think it would fit into at least what I understand you're going to talk about. And boy, am I enticed. So I'm looking forward to that.
It may be a challenge for me to get something new to read and read it and
Again,
my
audio book, listen to it in the car, whatever.
yeah,
Well, if not, some other time, but we have plenty of time.
I'm in the throes of transitioning jobs, plus,
Oh.
taking a trip to Michigan to see my mother. Because once I start the new position, I'll be under a 90-day period where I can't take paid time off. The message that I'll be sharing is actually I didn't share one of the other hats I wear. I'm also a doctoral student in the humanities at Harrison Middleton University, which is based out of Tempe. I call it the University of Phoenix for those who are interested in the humanities. It's a good place. It's been good to me. But the message you will be getting is heavily worked material from a previous course I finished called A Philosophical History of the Universal and the Particular. So my term paper is getting remixed and resurrected in a different form, reincarnated maybe, for this audience. So not sure I'm ready to introduce a new author into the mix, but thank you for I may need to add that book to my pile of 30 that I've got, needing read.
Jay?
Yeah, I'd like to continue my advertisement. And with regards to the Universalist Convocation, many of you know that the Universalist Convocation has been offering yearly convos since the early 1990s, where we meet physically together to both celebrate and explore our Universalist heritage, but it's also very much a way of building relationships. And a lot of us have met there and in online forums. But it's been difficult to gather together of late. We have to thank Derek graciously for offering his church and location for last year's convocation. And it was a great experience. I have had an opportunity to contact and confirm the May 2026 physical on-site convocation in Newberry, South Carolina at the Clayton Memorial Church. There is something special about Newberry, South Carolina. It really is the center of original Universalism in the South that then spread across to Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. And Reverend D.B. Clayton, from whom the church is named for, was also a very key and important minister at that time. Of course, his ministry has long been lost to history, which I hope we can resurrect once again and at least know those who have walked before us. So we'll be getting that information out. The universalistconvocation.org website has been updated with that upcoming information if anyone's interested in following along in for the future. That's all I have.
Well, if no one has anything else to say, I want to thank everybody for listening and look forward to Derek's talk in June. And
Justin has heard me give spoken ministry on more than one occasion. I, I'm glad you're willing to go for another dose of it. So
yes, yeah. Yes, unlike some ministers, I enjoy hearing a good sermon from another minister. Some lay services don't do it for me, but anyway, that's another matter.
Well, Richard, I think you could end the recording.
Oh, the recording hasn't that stopped already?